Okay, this is my second Danielson lesson plan. This is for second grade, and the subject is science, and it's Unit 3, and the lesson title is Parts of a Plant. For my content and Common Core standards, I have the content standard Science 3, students through the inquiry process demonstrate knowledge of characteristics, structures, and function of living things, the process of diversity of life, and how living organisms interact with each other and their environment. And then I have the Science 4.3 standard that's identify that plants and animals have structures and systems that serve different functions for growth, survival, and reproduction. And then I also included the Common Core standard reading informational texts that students will be able to determine the meaning of words and phrases in a text relevant to grade 2 topic or subject area. And then this is an art lesson as well, so I included the content standards for art that are 1 through 3, and one is discover multiple approaches and solutions to an art or design problem. 2 is demonstrate personal interest in an artwork or design using various materials, tools, and everyday objects. And 3 is discuss choices made in creating artwork. And then for our lesson objectives and instructional outcomes, students will be able to identify plants by examining basic parts of the plant, and students will be able to describe different aspects of the plant. And I really want students to come away with knowing what the most important part of a plant is and why. And then the relationship to the unit structure is that this lesson will support unit goals by ensuring students understand the parts of a plant. This lesson builds off of a previous lesson taught in sequence and provides different learning styles to accommodate students. The previous lesson is classifying vegetables and fruits as part of a plant. So students have an image and they get to figure out if that is a vegetable or a fruit, essentially. And then the lesson supports this lesson supports the next lesson by providing the knowledge needed regarding parts of a plant and their function. And the next lesson has to do with the life cycle of a plant. And for my materials for this lesson, I will need whiteboards, markers, and erasers. I have a parts of a plant worksheet. I'll need copies of those for all the students. Pencils, ground coffee, fake flowers, colored construction paper, green and white, glue, scissors, and sticky notes. My class information is if there's extra help available, I would definitely use the assistance of pairs just because this is an art lesson where we're using crafty stuff, so it's always helpful to have extra hands. For my methods and instructional strategies, the anticipated student misconceptions I imagine is I anticipate students having a difficult time remembering the parts of the plant. A lot of the terms are kind of big and bulky and kind of foreign. I don't think a lot of kids coming into it having heard that. And the function of these parts of the plant. To prevent this from happening, I'll help students label the plant and discuss the functions again one-on-one. I will also encourage students to attempt to label the plant on their own and explain to me or a neighbor what the function of each part is. For concept prerequisites, students will be able to identify a plant and understand basic concepts such as watering, light, and so on. So for instructional activities, once the image is properly labeled on the board with the roots, stem, flowers, and leaves, I'll begin explaining the importance of each. I will explain that the roots hold the plant in the soil and take in water and minerals to help the plant stay alive. The stem is part of the plant that carries water from the roots to the other parts of the plant. The flower helps the plant reproduce, making seeds that'll eventually grow into new plants. And the leaves take in air and light that help the plant grow. And I found a short little video that I would probably include. It's a little animated video that's just 2 minutes and really quick, and I think that'll help kind of drive all this home with the students. Next, I will be handing out the following supplies: coffee grounds, fake flowers, colored construction paper, scissors, and glue. I will explain to students that they will be creating plants that have roots, a stem, flowers, and leaves. They will oversee deciding how their plants will look, but they must have all parts labeled and visible. For the wrap-up and closure, if students finish early, they'll be given a life cycle of a plant worksheet, which is right here. because this is kind of the next lesson we go off, and it definitely builds off of this. So students have to cut out these images and then glue them on in the order they think they go. And then once the entire class is completed, I will have students present their plans and name the parts and explain briefly the function for each. For the grouping strategy, I really didn't need one because a lot of this work is done individually or as a class. For differentiation, for students that are high energy and need extra instruction or generally just struggling with the assignment, I will try to have a para in the classroom, especially because it is such a hands-on activity that can help me with additional instruction and feedback for students. For students that are advanced and finish before the rest of the class, I will have a few different worksheets relating to our lesson that they can do while we wait for the rest of the class to finish. For my assessment, formative, I will be walking around, looking at students' work, making sure that they're staying on task and creating a proper plan that has the correct parts labeled. For the summative assessment, I will grade this when students present their plan, how they labeled each part, what they have to say about the function for each part. My reflections with this assignment is if there's anything I could have done differently to improve the lesson. And did every student finish the lesson with a clear understanding of the material? And then how could I have made the lesson more engaging for students? That is it for that one.